I was introduced to God, to Christianity at a really young age. 5 is when I first remember going to church with my aunt and uncle. They were part of a Seventh-day Adventist church. Ultimately, I think I just didn't have enough of an understanding of who God really was and what the purpose of Christianity was, and I ended up kind of fearing God. Pretty heavy stuff for a first grader to think God's gonna come one day and I'm not going, you know, like I'm gonna be left behind, and I just was always so worried about that. I was just scared that everything I did was wrong. As I got older, when I was a teenager, I started to act out. I really felt like those eyes were on me. I felt a lot of guilt in everything I did and didn't want to be kind of walking on eggshells. Ultimately, I just pushed God away. I definitely suffered for that. I didn't have any structure at that point anymore. I didn't have anything holding me accountable, and I was a very depressed, very anxious teenager. I fell into smoking and drinking and just filling this void with anything but Jesus. I got older and I got a job and I went to college. I made all these friends, and I would still find myself like crying to my mom. I'd be like, why is it that I have everything that I could ever ask for, and I'm not happy? I was still depressed. I was still anxious. I still wasn't complete. And I was like, what can I do? I was on antidepressants. I'd go to the gym and I'd take care of myself, and there was just something missing every single time. Something weird happened where me and my best friend just started talking about God. We would be talking about boys or something, and then be like, this was God. Like, oh, that was so crazy. That can't be a coincidence. God's real or something. It was just so random. Out of nowhere, we just started like mentioning God, and I would really be engaged into conversations because I don't think I'd ever had anybody else that I could talk to about God in a very relatable way. I had a coworker that had a cross, and I was like, are you a Christian? And they were like, yeah. And they just mentioned that they went to a church here in Auburn, and a friend and I just decided to visit. I was definitely anxious walking into a new church, but I just remember leaving with this relief because it was everything that I needed it to be. When I came in, I remember it was Doug preaching that day. It was funny, he couldn't get the slides to work, and it was so raw, it was real. And I remember sitting there and I'm like, I don't feel like I'm being preached at. I had never seen it like that, I'd always known the Bible to be very old, and I was like, wow, it doesn't have to be like that. I can really learn from this, and I want to bring my friends here. I was so scared that it wasn't going to be right and that it was just going to be another dead end, but I felt like at home, and no antidepressant, no party, nothing could make me feel like I did once I started getting back into my faith. I had just been in a fog for so many years. I was so frustrated and couldn't see a future that I was truly happy with until I came back, and it was like that fog was just lifted. I noticed a difference in myself, my intentions, the way I speak, the people I surround myself with, everything I do. And it's funny because it wasn't a conscious thing. It just happened. It's crazy how he just changes your heart. He changes you. You also need other Christians in your life, I feel like, to grow. And Peyton formed a small group, and that's gotta be one of the best things. It started off with like 7 or 8 people. I remember it was just real awkward the first day in the best way possible, because it was like, yeah, we don't really know each other, but we all believe in the same thing. We all want the same thing. And here it's not about who's cool, who's not, who's got this and who's not. It's like, we're all in a really vulnerable situation right now. We're all in this room. We started this new season this fall, actually, and that's when things went crazy. We got in this room and I was expecting the same thing. I couldn't find a seat. I walked in here and I was like, where am I gonna sit? Again, in the best way possible, because it's like, that's an amazing problem to have. Altogether, we had about like 30 young adults in this group. I didn't even know there were 30 young adults at this church. To have people in your life that are of the same faith, to have people holding you accountable throughout the week is so important. During a sermon, they had said the next baptism will be on October 27th. That's my birthday. And I was like, no way. I was like, I have to get baptized. But also, it was perfect because I've just been thinking that I have to be ready to get baptized, that I have to be perfect to be baptized. But I've already surrendered myself to Jesus, so now it's just taking that step and just letting everyone know, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, you know? One more thing to do in my lifetime of faith and with my relationship with God, you know? My name is Geovanna, and I've decided to follow Jesus.